send their kids to public school. I'm sorry. And also, we can expand on that and say, hey, do you think Obama would be president if he hadn't gone to Harvard? No, he had no real, and please pardon me if someone wants to debate it, I totally can out there. He didn't have a gigantic amount of accolades to run on. I specifically remember them using in the media the fact that he was the editor of the Harvard Law Review as a selling point for his ability to run the government. And I always said to myself, where do you meet the future movers and shakers of society? In private school. However, if you, as a rich liberal individual, step back and say, well, I don't need to fund, public school because that's not my problem, then don't complain when some poor, uneducated individual who didn't have a chance, who had every single aspect of his freedom infringed upon by police, who couldn't get a regular job, had a felony at 18, and is now robbing and stealing, blows your kid's head off just to steal his car that he doesn't know has a low jack in it or is worth half of what it was when it rolled off the lot. If you're not part of this society, then how are you even going to sit there and pass judgment or claim that you want to help it or claim that you're even part of America? You're either part of this or you're not. The massive amount of corporations that make money off this country want their business exported from here, and yet they want to sell to people from here. They don't want to pay their fair share of what it costs to run this country, what it costs for the military to back up those areas where they're taking natural resources out of, but they want all the benefits of it. In other words, they want to have sex with America, but they don't want to marry her. They're whoring her out. And I have no respect for those type of people, whether they come from the left, whether they come from the right. And unfortunately, I tell people, what you're going to have to deal with now, Alex, is a whole lot of frauds coming into the libertarian movement. Frauds.
Oh, no.
Unabashed.
Look at how Glenn Beck has now announced he's the leader of libertarians.
He's the leader.
While trying to demonize him.
That guy doesn't have both paddles in the water. And I don't know where he gets off thinking he's some kind of intellectual, moral, superior force to anybody else. He's a guy who got thrown off a Fox. And that's like a daytime talk show, and that's low. I think at some point, without having the credentials to make these statements, I think it gets lost in the woodwork.
Well, my issue with Glenn Beck.
Let me just say this, because I know a lot of people that really are community activists. You know what I mean? That really are people who work within the community, and they're not the ones that sit on their high horse talking down to people. They're the ones that get their hands dirty and work with the people. They're not the ones with the anxiety disorder who hang behind 20 bodyguards and won't be seen in public. They're the people that are actually on the street. And I have nothing but respect for those people. And it doesn't matter what...
Well, I was about to say, I happen to know the inside scoop on Glenn Beck. He's obsessed with my show. And no. And he's like an empty suit who takes acting lessons all day. And you're right, 20 bodyguards, totally scared, 5 bodyguards at his house. And I'm not, I don't want to die, but I don't have any bodyguards. I'm not,
well, I mean, you got...
Oh, yeah.
This is worth like 20 bodyguards,
Well, I mean, actually, for tactical up close, I got a Reaper 308. Anyways, the issue is I got a couple of guns. And hey, I bought that gun for guess how much? 5 G's. Guess how much it's worth now?
$25,000?
Yeah, about 15 to 20.
Yeah, I seen him selling online.
Yeah, and the good news is I bought a couple more before that. So, I mean, my issue is, I don't want to get into guns. It's kind of obnoxious, but I got a couple. I'll leave it that way. And they're distributed all over the nation, and they're all mine. And they've made more, and they've gone up more than gold, which I also own a bit of. And,
But let me ask you something then. What about the gun industry, the gun lobby? You know what I mean? When you got a guy like Wayne LaPierre, like, don't you think that he does more harm to the cause by not even acknowledging the deaths of people and just...
He knows that they're going to... I'm not saying the NRA is perfect because it's kind of establishment. It's actually been anti-gun in the past. If you look, it was set up with Northern soldiers, mainly Irish immigrants, never had shot. And so you could have like one Southerner kill 10 Northerners. So they started the National Rifle Association. Well, if we ever have another war, people need to know how to shoot. Scary as hell going against folks who know how to shoot. Who've grown up doing it. So that's what it started as. Then they supported the 68 Gun Control Act. We basically took over the NRA, the Libertarian Constitutionalist. We took it over. And so now it's walking the walk because it.
Well, the complaints I hear about it from people is that they say they only want specific people to have guns. In other words, they want prominent white Christian Americans to have guns, but when they're in the hands of people like the Black Panthers, other people who have self-determination.
When have they criticized that?
No, I'm just saying that these are the criticisms that I.
But that's made up. In fact, I've had Buzz Bissinger say I should be killed and stuff on CNN, and they go, Alex Jones is for guns because he wants black people to kill themselves, and the Klan is pro-gun, so blacks kill themselves. And the truth is, the Klan's the ones that got the first gun laws passed at the end of the Civil War, so blacks couldn't have guns. So I mean, I'm not disagreeing with your point. I'm getting directly at the point that I hear this about the NRA. It's like they want blacks to kill themselves with guns, but they don't want blacks to have guns. And that's actually not what I'm...
But I think it's not so much what you're saying. I'm not criticizing what your stance is. I'm saying that they seem disingenuous about it because they don't speak to the community. I don't think they have... It's like, what are these people? They're so brave and so strong, and yet they won't send a car full of 3 people into a black community to say, hey, you know what? These are your rights concerning gun laws. The next time you're thrown in prison by police that think you don't know your rights and think you're an easy Vic for them to make money and keep you in prison, this is what you can do to keep yourself out. That's why they seem disingenuous.
Oh, I agree with you.
Because they don't go to the
well, here's the deal. Most of these people...
And they keep them...
Sure. Wayne LaPierre, I've actually been in an event he was speaking at. The guy was shaking for him to speak. I mean, here's the deal. You've got totally disconnected, predominantly white, but there's also, I've been at these things, it's everybody's there. They all like the same. I don't care if they're Hispanic, black, white. They're all totally focused, totally fake, and totally, because they understand it's all a business meeting. And everybody's playing it as safe as they can at these events. And yes, the establishment types like that are so cloistered, so separated, so compartmentalized, where they go to the country club, they go to church, they do this, that they don't even know what planet they're on. So with the NRA, they just know that if they play along with Obama and go, yes, we're very sad, that'll be spun against them.
Right. You know what? For me, someone once told me that it's better to talk to someone than about them. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So
well, listen, you've seen me in New York.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I
go out on the street.
I would totally be willing to have a conversation with people, and please contact for people from the NRA to discuss what sort of advice or what legal precedent are you setting up so that people who are victims of home invasion, victims of robbery, victims of every crime imaginable, you know what I mean? I don't want to turn everything into the shootout at the OK Corral, but at the same time, I see an entire generation of my people being incarcerated, being victimized, simply because they don't understand their rights under the law.
Well, see, that's why I love Ron Paul. You know, the NRA should be a civil rights organization. It shouldn't just be in fact, I've said that. It should not just be defending the Second Amendment because they all interconnect. That's why I love Ron Paul. He'll give a speech about the CIA bringing in the drugs to destroy the communities. Look, you want to fix the communities. Now they've destroyed everybody so bad, as Ron Paul said, you got to keep welfare going because you got to wean people off over 20 years. We're already so screwed. But you've got to quit shipping the drugs in. You've got to decriminalize, and Mexico will get a lot better overnight. But this is the United States.
And this is the other thing that I said. You know what? If people, and I always tell you teach more with love than you do with hatred. You know what I mean? If I can go to those rappers who rhyme about weed and I can tell them, hey man, do you realize that your fan base is being criminalized and thrown in jail, that they're having their rights?
No, they train them to put on a uniform that the police have been trained to attack.
But let me just finish my point. If those are your fans, why aren't you educating them about the rights that they have in terms of marijuana? Why aren't you educating about the way that they can legally protect themselves from this? The conversation in America shouldn't be, you know what, are we going to legalize guns or not? No, you're never going to get rid of them. The
rappers should be organizing people saying, get involved. Here's how you protect yourself. Get a medical deal.
On the weed side of it, too. You know what? At some point, the conversation stopped, and it should definitely stop being about whether we're going to legalize or not. The conversation needs to be now, are we going to legalize or decriminalize? What's better for the populace? What's better for people's rights? What's better per individual state? What's better to create?
Well, once you bring money into it, that's the surest way to. They call it legalization, but if you legalize but regulate, but have it at the state level, it will absolutely shut it down. and be a huge tax base.
And the saddest thing I hear is when people hit up my Twitter or the Facebook and they say, hey, Technique, you know, how can you be for marijuana legalization? What if someone got into a car while they were high and drove? And I'm like, dude, alcohol's legal. What if somebody got drunk?
Well, marijuana makes you actually drive safer, probably.
What if someone got drunk and got into a car? And
somebody smoking pot's driving 45 in the slow lane. I was scared. Anyways.
They're stopping every 5 miles for drive-through.
Yeah. Anyways, it's all crap. Listen, there's going to be bad stuff happening in the world. Anybody that tries to sell you on, let's do this, let's take liberties. I heard a guy on the radio this morning going, let's have licenses to be able to buy alcohol. And, you know, a license to be a drinker as an adult. The nanny state isn't going to save us. It's all about cartels. They made, look, Prohibition was over after 9 years, as you know, you're early. The very same entities went and lobbied then to get drugs illegal that you could buy at the corner drugstore. There was much less heroin, cocaine use. You could buy it at the local drugstore. Laudanum, you name it. They made it illegal. They made it cool. Now the dealers had the nice cars. Everybody thought it was fun. They got into it. And it's a total fraud. Absolutely. To young people out there, never use illegal drugs. Don't go on the prescription psychotropics. The least of our problems is marijuana. Decriminalize marijuana, not because it's good. I think overall it's destructive to a lot of people.
I agree.
But, well, okay, fine. Now I think there are a lot of potheads that sit around and eat pizza all day. But the point is that, no, I know, but some people. The point is that it's much more destructive to make it illegal so the system has an excuse to throw people on the slammer and put them into the criminal culture. Look, here's my issue about marijuana. I know there's a lot of this high-end marijuana that actually makes you think and has medical uses. The general public smoking a bunch of cruddy crap that makes you feel like you've been run over by a truck. And so, see, that's an elitist thing. I mean, people that can, like Joe Rogan, my friend, I mean, if Joe Rogan's around, I've said this a few times, he was like, hey, try this. For 5 hours, I feel like I could do equations or something. But that's super high-end marijuana, different than the stuff that makes you feel like you've drank 3 bottles of Jack Daniels.
No, I definitely think that's correct. And more than just that, there's an old saying by a rap group I grew up listening to, Nice and Smooth, and in hip-hop, they said, too much of anything makes you an addict. You know, it's really about moderation in some sense of the word. And I think that's what people don't realize in terms of where public education has failed people. You have a class about calculus that people have to take. You know, most people
don't want to do that.
It's not just that, or a chemical class where a Bunsen burner, unless you work as a chem major in college.
You don't need it.
Or your ability